Today I will show you the best configuration for Apex Legends that currently exists. I would even go so far and say that in the next few years, there will probably still be no better configuration. It has been created by the best Apex player within the XIM community. He is an ALGS player for lots of years now and is also playing in the BLGS circuit, and today he has allowed me to share his setup. Since this is a really complex configuration, I will have to explain everything in detail, or else you may not understand how to use it. So definitely watch the entire video and do not skip any parts of it. As always, you can use this setup on any platform, and you can even use it with a controller. Controller users must only change the shown bindings to a controller button. I would recommend to use modifiers since controllers otherwise do not offer enough buttons. Before we start, your XIM must be on the latest beta firmware. This configuration uses features that only the beta firmware has. If you haven't updated your XIM yet, then just watch this video to get started. The copy code for this configuration also requires this firmware, or a more recent one. Let's start with the in-game settings. Please do not use any other settings. First off, we are using Southpaw. This allows us to loot boxes with the mouse. Mouse users will have to make adjustments to the layout. Here you can see the correct layout. You swap attack with jump and ADS with interact. At last, crouch and interact are switched. Controller players can choose their own preferred layout. The reload mechanic at the top is also very important. Do not use anything else. The same goes for any other setting that you can see here. You really cannot use anything else. For the optic settings, use the following custom values. This is however not sufficient. We will use more accurate values. For that, activate the advanced look controls at the bottom of the screen. After that, head into the optics menu. Activate those if they are turned off. Next, set those to the values that you can see in my video. After that, it is very important that you simply back out of this menu. Do not deactivate these advanced optics. At the top, you now deactivate the custom look controls. This method allows you to use more precise optic settings while also using the linear mechanic of the game. The video settings are up to you, but this configuration was made for a field of view of 106. As for the configuration settings, I will briefly go over the aim settings. Those are all set up in a way to provide a great aim assist balance. Ideally, use the same settings, but you are not required to. The polling rate is set to 1000 Hz in the connectivity settings. And your mouse should run on the same DPI as your XIM. The only value you should change is the sensitivity. Here you can use your own hip and ADS sensitivity. If you do not know what sensitivity works best for you, then you can watch my guide on that. It will show you how to find your most optimal sensitivity with which you have the highest accuracy. You can find a link to it in the video description. Next, we have the advanced settings. I advise you to copy these settings for the most optimal results. If you want more aim assist, then you can also go for the following alternative. Use these smoothing settings and then add these quantized values on top of it. At last, enter the curve generator and insert this curve. The copy and paste code for this curve can be found in the video description. Simply copy the entire code and then click on the paste button in this menu. That will insert the curve into your manager. This is the curve from my old Overwatch tutorial. It will boost the aim assist for faster aiming speeds. For the ADS menu, the same concept applies. Use your own preferred sensitivity and copy all other values. The really important settings are in the next menu. I will start at the bottom and explain everything in detail. First, you must set the game roles as shown in this video. This is because of the controller layout we have picked earlier. If you use the in-game settings from the beginning of the video, then pick these two as your options. In your in-game layout, you can see which buttons are used for ADS and shooting. Controller users can disregard this option. In the simulation settings, there is nothing that we have to adjust. But in the modifier menu, there is quite a lot. First off, make sure to set the option at the bottom to exclude. Next, you must bind two modifier buttons. The left one is for group loading. With that one, you will choose what group should be active. The modifier in the middle is for zipline techs. You can use it for mantle jumps and zipline crouches. It is also used for super jumps. The modifier on the right is not used in this setup, you can disregard it. Ideally, use the same buttons or pick your own preferred ones. The group customization must not be changed. The names are quite self-explanatory, so I would suggest to keep them as they are. The quick pull settings are not used. And in the automatic bindings, you can remove the left stick. Next, we have the button bindings. Let's start at the top. I will always discuss the binding at the very top and tell you what it does. Once you know what it does, you can then either keep it as it is or bind it to your own preferred button. First, we have the general aiming. This is the only binding you should not change. The next binding is for shooting. Below shooting, we have a sensitivity modifier. Whenever you are shooting, the sensitivity for up and down movements is increased by 20%. This will make recoil control a lot easier because you must not move down your mouse or analog stick so much anymore to compensate the recoil. Next, we have the anti-recoil setups. These are optimized for Xbox and PC, so PlayStation users may have to adjust them a bit. You can load them by holding your first modifier button. We will get to that point later in the video. The last group is for the rapid fire. This can, for example, be used with the hemlock. The rapid fire is rather slow to avoid other players from suspecting anything. When, for example, loading the hemlock group, rapid fire will be active by default. If you wish to make normal burst shots, then you can hold down your first modifier button. This will overwrite the rapid fire and perform normal shots. As you can see right above it, this binding also exists without a group attached to it. It therefore remains available whenever you need it, regardless of what you are doing. After that, we have the ADS button. And right below, you can find the button to ping items or locations. The next button is using the second modifier, which is dedicated to zipline techs. This one is for the mantle jump. You would hold down your second modifier and then press this button to perform a mantle jump. Next, we have the melee button. The binding after that is a super glide setup. Continuously scroll up while standing in front of a ledge to perform a perfect super glide. To optimize your super glide setup, you can change the first weight action. Select a value that suits your frames per second. I am running the 120 frames per second version of the game, so I have chosen a value of 9. The next binding is one of those that require the second modifier, so it is another zipline tech. Hold down the second modifier plus this button to perform zipline crouches. Below we have a normal bunny hop setup. Continuously scroll down to spam your jump button. The next binding is used to perform a super jump. It uses the second modifier again, so make sure to press and hold this button first before pressing your super jump button. The binding after that is used for normal movements. This setup uses digital movement. If you want to use analog movement, you would need to activate the left stick in the automatic bindings again. The next binding is used to open the healing menu. Later there will also be hotkeys for specific healing items. Right below, we have the first binding to load a recoil group. When you look down, you can see that there are quite a lot of them. To load a recoil group, you use your first modifier. You hold it down and then you press the corresponding button. Let me quickly do that to highlight those bindings. By pressing the F key, for example, I will load the hemlock group together with rapid fire. Simply press the first modifier and the corresponding group key. I will later give you an example. To shorten this video, I will not discuss the remaining bindings for recoil groups anymore. The next binding is for reloading and interactions. Please keep in mind that you must briefly hold down this button to reload your weapon, and when quickly pressing it, you will interact with items. The binding after that is for switching the fire mode of your weapon. After that, we have a binding for your character ability. This is for your tactical ability. The next binding is for turbo looting. Press and hold this button to always win a looting battle, or quickly pick up everything that can be found on the floor or in a crate. The binding after that will instantly equip your survivability item. If you, for example, want to deploy an evacuation tower, simply press this button and it will be selected instantly. You must not open your menu anymore to do this. Next, we have 3 different bindings to switch your weapons. These are very important. If you use them correctly, your XIM will continue to track your correct recoil groups, so definitely pay attention to the following explanation. Let's go through them one after another. The top binding is your normal button to switch weapons. Do not use any other button if you just want to switch from your primary to your secondary or vice versa. The revert action that is part of this binding will ensure the correct recoil group is loaded when switching your weapon. The third binding will holster your weapon. It doesn't matter which weapon you have equipped. If you use this binding, then your XIM will keep track of your recoil groups. So always use this binding to holster your weapons. Now, when you have holstered your weapons, you have 2 options. If you want to pick up your original weapon again, press this holster button another time. This will reload the correct recoil group. And when you want to equip your second weapon, then press the second binding that I haven't addressed yet. This binding only serves one purpose, which is loading your second weapon when you currently have holstered both. I know that this sounds confusing, so let me show you an example. Here you can see that I have 2 weapons equipped. My primary weapon is the R301 and my second one is the flatline. I will show the manager on the left side. Let me scroll to the point where these 2 recoil groups are located. The way you bundle these 2 recoil groups is the following. First, you load the recoil group of the weapon you have not equipped right now. For me, that is the flatline. You can see me doing that on the left side. And after that, you load the recoil group of your primary weapon. That way, you bundle both. Now let me scroll up to the actual recoil setups. Remember those 3 bindings to switch your weapons? I will now press the first one of them, which is the normal button to switch weapons. As you can see, whenever I press it, my XIM will automatically load the correct recoil profile. I can do this as often as I want to, and the XIM will always stay in sync. Next, I will press the third button, which will holster my weapon. As you can see, my recoil group switched to the other one. And when I press my holster button another time, I will have my original weapon again, and the XIM will switch back to the correct group. Let me holster my weapon another time. This time I will press the second binding, which only serves the purpose of equipping my second weapon. Keep in mind that this button can only be used when you have holstered your weapons. As you can see on the left, my XIM is already running on the correct group. To summarize this, please make sure to use the correct buttons to switch your weapons. And to create a pair of recoil groups, always load the recoil group of the gun you have not equipped first, and then the group of your weapon that you currently are using. Let's switch back to the button bindings. The next 3 bindings are for healing. Those will instantly switch to a specific healing item. The first one will equip a medikit, the second one will equip a shield battery, and the third one will instantly switch to shield cells. Use these if you want to save time during an intense combat. I will skip the next binding because I will address it at the end of the video. Next, we have the jump button. The binding after that will open your inventory. Then we have the button for the grenade menu, followed by the crouch button. And at last, there is the sprint button and the binding that will activate your ultimate ability. Now at the end, I have 2 last bindings to address. Let me scroll up a bit. The first binding is this one here, which requires the first modifier. With this binding, you can reset your groups. This will close any active group so you can start with a clean sheet again. Simply press this button together with your first modifier button to reset all groups. The last binding exists twice, and both versions will do the very same. You have one binding that doesn't require a modifier, and then a little bit more at the top you will find another one that needs a modifier. Both will load a different configuration. In this case, the configuration that is placed in slot 2 of your XIM. Because configurations have a limit of how many bindings they can have, the creator of this setup wasn't able to add everything into this configuration. Luckily, the second configuration is only needed for care packages. This configuration therefore includes recoil setups for weapons that can only be found in care packages. You can find the copy and paste code for that configuration in the video description. Add this configuration to your manager, and then open the Manage menu in the top right of your XIM. Move the normal configuration to the very top of this video and the care package 1 right below it. So slot 1 and 2 are used by these 2 setups. If you use the care package setup, you will see that it will switch back to slot 1. Also, the care package 1 doesn't have all the normal bindings of the first setup. You will have to add those by yourself. For that, just compare it to the first setup and add the few bindings that are missing. At last, the care package setup uses the settings that boost the aim assist. As always, you can find the copy and paste codes in the video description.
So guys, if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button or maybe even subscribe to this channel to not miss out on any of the upcoming videos. Also, contrary to popular belief, this channel is not an official XIM channel. I run this channel in my free time to bring you guys the latest XIM news and tricks. So if you want to support what I do, then maybe consider to join the YouTube channel membership. Channel members usually get around 1 to 4 weeks of early access to all new videos. Plus, we also have a nice little Discord to discuss XIM settings and other stuff. But that's about it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching, and I will maybe see you in the next one.